This is Valley News Live at 10.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Reed Gregory.
And I'm Zoe Jones. It is a holiday weekend, and that marks the unofficial end of the summer season.
And I tell you what, it sure felt like summer out there today. Let's check in with First Alert Storm Team's Shelby Ebertowski for a look at our forecast. Shelby?
Well, Zoe and Reed, today was another warm day for most of us here in the Red River Valley. Some areas for our peak temperatures today here in Fargo, we got to 97 degrees, 92 in Grand Forks, but other areas stayed in those 80s like Langdon and Hallock. But otherwise, after that, our current temperatures are still sitting on the cooler side, 72 in Grand Forks, 68 in Langdon. But as well, we're also seeing some low visibility because of some wildfire smoke still monitoring and still sticking around in our neck of the woods. We have areas like in Grand Forks with that 7 miles of visibility. But to go with that, we also have that low air quality. We have that moderately unhealthy for some and just that moderate wildfire smoke sticking around throughout our neck of the woods throughout the day today and over the next couple days. But we also hit our 26th day today above 90 degrees. And Zoe and Reed, we have another one coming up here tomorrow. But we also have a cool down arriving after the next couple days, and I'll have your full forecast for that and that wildfire smoke coming up here in just a few moments.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shelby. A correctional facility in Minnesota was put on emergency lockdown today after inmates refused to return to their cells.
Now, sources say around 100 inmates from one living unit at the Stillwater prison were involved as they protested hot conditions in their cells. The department said that all of their staff was removed from the common areas of the housing unit, and a special operations response team was deployed out of an abundance of caution. Luckily, everything came to a peaceful resolution.
As of now, no injuries have been reported during the standoff. For reference, Stillwater houses about 1,200 inmates. As Florida recovers from Hurricane Idalia, President Biden is promising the federal government's help. The
president visited the state this weekend to meet with officials and see the damage for himself. Bradley Blackburn has more.
President Biden landed in Florida Saturday, days after Hurricane Idalia tore through parts of the state.
Now the storm has passed, and you're dealing with what's left in its wake. And we're not going anywhere, the federal government. We're here to help the state as long as it takes.
The president and first lady toured damage in the small community of Live Oak and met with residents and officials.
I want to thank the senator.
Florida's Republican Senator Rick Scott joined the president, but not Governor Ron DeSantis. Instead, the Republican presidential candidate was handing out food about 75 miles away. But the president and governor spoke by phone last week. And President Biden cleared the way for federal disaster relief funds for Florida. He said politics aren't hampering the recovery effort.
No, I'm not disappointed. He may have had other reasons but he did help us plan this. He sat with FEMA and decided where we should go, where would be the least disruption.
Damage assessment and cleanup are ongoing as residents in multiple counties face what the storm left behind.
Everything else was total loss.
The aftermath stretches into Georgia, where the governor has also requested federal assistance. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had said he was concerned a presidential visit could get in the way of recovery efforts. The White House said they chose a location where power was already restored.
And Governor DeSantis provided an update today on the recovery efforts in Florida as a way to give the United States a deeper look at the impact that the hurricane had on their community.
Some people lost their entire homes. Some of the homes just washed away that were right there on the water. Others had 4 or 5 feet of water in them. They're not livable right now. Probably can salvage them, but you gotta gut the drywall. You got to do all that, and that takes a lot of time.
Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy delivered remarks while touring destruction on the island of Maui yesterday. McCarthy surveyed the disaster areas affected by the deadly fires and got a chance to observe firsthand what took place. The Speaker of the House met with federal and local officials involved in all recovery efforts.
Now, this comes after the FBI released a validated list of names of individuals who remain unaccounted for. More than 120 people remain unaccounted for as of now, and additional names were added to the list. While delivering remarks, Speaker McCarthy reflected on the damage he witnessed during the aerial tour and touched on recovery efforts, noting that all of the issues will not be solved overnight.
Well, according to a new poll, Americans want an ethics code for the U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas ended a months-long saga last week by officially disclosing trips paid for by GOP megadonor Harlan Crow. Now, the incident brought to light a key fact. Unlike other federal courts and the executive and legislative branch, the Supreme Court has no formal ethics code. A recent poll asked whether the Supreme Court should have a formal code of ethics, and around 90% of Americans, well, yes, they should. Unsurprisingly, given the court's conservative majority, Republicans are far likelier now to say that justices have high honesty and ethical standards than compared to Democrats.
Lawmakers are now in a race against time to avoid a government shutdown by the end of the month. As the Senate returns this week after its August recess and the House reconvenes next week, the two chambers have just a few weeks to resolve major differences over funding the government. GOP hardliners in the House could end up forcing the White House and Senate to make a choice, accept a slew of conservative priorities, or risk a debilitating government shutdown. Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy reportedly urged his colleagues to back a short-term spending deal to avoid a shutdown, and instead he encouraged them to focus on their energy on the larger funding fight later in the fall.
Tens of thousands of people are being told to shelter in place at the annual Burning Man Festival in Nevada. This is all following heavy rain. Now thick ankle-deep mud is making it hard for people to walk and drive, let alone even leave the concert.
Right now, officials are telling attendees to conserve food, water, and fuel. Jen Sullivan has the latest.
The Labor Day holiday weekend off to a rough start for tens of thousands attending an event focused on self-expression. Thick mud caused by torrential rain in the Black Rock Desert has made walking difficult.
The County Road 34 is approximately a little over a mile. So people are walking out. There are people again stuck.
But one attendee who was stranded says the harsh weather has taken the meaning of the event back to its roots.
When it was really wet, you couldn't do anything. You just lived here. There's really no way to walk miles, to get out of it. It's a survival event. Like, you come out here to be in a harsh climate and you prepare for that. We don't know what's going to happen tonight, though.
The remote event site was hit with 2 to 3 months worth of rain in just 24 hours from Friday to Saturday morning. The National Weather Service says more is anticipated Sunday afternoon.
Looking at the forecast for today, it's pushed out a little bit, so hopefully that'll give these people an opportunity to get off the playa. It doesn't look like it is going to rain as hard as initially forecasted.
Authorities say resources have been brought in from around northern Nevada to help with medical needs on the grounds, while working to deploy buses to get people out, which festival organizers say will likely not be a 24-hour operation. I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Now, authorities say they're also investigating a death which took place during the rain, although they're unclear if it's related to any of the storms.
This weekend marks the 78th anniversary of Victory over Japan Day and the end of World War II. In Washington, D.C., World War II veterans were recognized at a ceremony at the National World War II Memorial.
Wreaths were placed at the memorial's Freedom Wall in remembrance of all those who lost their lives in the war. More than 400,000 Americans and 60 million people worldwide lost their lives in World War II, making it the deadliest conflict in human history.
Later on Valley News Live, the Biden administration is proposing a new gun rule. We'll have details after the break.
And tomorrow we have another warm day with that heat index is possibly getting to near that triple-digit heat in the afternoon, with areas like here in Fargo getting to 97. But coming up, we have another chance at more sizzling temperatures with another few chances of rain and that wildfire smoke sticking around. But I'll have your full forecast for you next.